Hello and welcome back to video 3 of a 3-part video series of a flight of the Phenom 100 from FeelThere. We are currently at 32,000 feet and at Mach 0.61, which is the standard cruise speed for the Phenom 100. And we are going to cruise for a few minutes and we're going to start our final descent, or our descent into Las Vegas International Airport. I think you're going to enjoy this leg of the flight because we're going to do a standard arrival, the caddy standard arrival, and we are going to fly the ILS approach into runway 25 left at Las Vegas Airport. If you didn't catch the previous 2 videos, this is a great flight to fly along with, either in this Phenom aircraft or in any other aircraft with navigation systems and glass. You will learn a lot, I promise you, if you aren't already an advanced flight simulator or an instrument pilot. So let's talk about what's going on here. We are getting close to our top of descent, and let me walk you backwards. So we are going to fly the star arrival into a standard arrival on the caddy. So let me pull up the chart for you there. So this is the approach of what we're doing. Right now we are flying to the Kingman Waypoint. So that's where in the bottom of where the yellow line starts. And from there we are going to we're going to essentially start our descent right about there, and we're going to ascend, and our target is to be at caddy, which is in the middle, at about 12,000 feet. At 12,000 feet, that's the altitude restriction, and the max at 250 knots. And from there, once we hit caddy, we're going to turn right to 325, and we're going to receive vectors to the runway 25 left. Okay? And you can see the Localizer on there, everything's good. So the first thing we're going to want to do is, we know we're going to be flying 25 left. Let's set the frequency for the radio. So when you're flying single pilot, you always want to be ahead of the airplane as much as possible because things happen very fast. So 111.75 is the Localizer. Let's go ahead and do that. We're going to take the inner knob and adjust the larger number. Outer knob is the smaller number. Then you click this button to actually activate that frequency. And you notice there's no identifier here. And if we click nav 1, there's no Morse code coming through. So we are not in range yet. So we're going to leave this on so we know when we're actually picking up the signal, and we can confirm we're okay. Now, since we know we have to be a caddy at 12,000 feet, that's a 20,000 foot descent from 32,000 to 12,000. So there's, in the manual that comes with this airplane, they give you a nice calculation, which is you take the 20,000, you remove the thousands from it, so down to 20, you multiply by 3, which is 60, and then you add about 10%. So about 66, 68 nautical miles from caddy, we're going to want our starter descent. And we just take here, we say 15, 25, 35, 38, 38 plus about 30 is going to get us down to caddy at the correct altitude. So in 10 miles, we're going to start our descent. Now, the second piece of the equation is how fast we descend and get there on time. And what you need to look at first is you look at our ground speed. And this is our ground speed here. And this is going to vary as we descend and the winds change and such forth. Looks like we're getting, so we have 6 miles to go. What you do with this number is you take and you round it up to the nearest 20. So you round it up to 340, and you add a 0, so 3,400. Then you divide that by 2, which is 17,000, and that's your descent rate in feet per minute. So 335 rounded up to 340, add a 0 to 3400, divide by 2, 1700, and that's your descent rate. So we're going to descend in 3 minutes, so let's get ready for that. One nice feature about this airplane, and we've been comparing this to the Coronado Phenom and some of the shortcomings that the Coronado Phenom has, you can actually change your altitude without actually starting the descent. The Coronado Phenom, you turn this knob and down you go. So now we've got the altitude in the box, 12,000, but we haven't actually started our descent yet. So now it's time. So we're going to hit the V-speed button, and we're going to take and adjust our rate of descent. And as we know, we need to V-speed down at 1,700 feet per minute, based on our calculations, until our speed goes up. Now you notice our airspeed is going up as we start coming down. We're going to target 250 knots in the descent, and you notice that our ground speed is going up also. You always want to go down faster than your calculation if there's any ambiguity. So we're going to increase to 1,800, and as soon as we go over 360, we're going to increase to 1,900. And you notice our speed is coming up pretty fast, so we'll bring the throttles back a little bit. There's no autopilot. there is no auto throttle on this, so you have to actually adjust the speed manually. Okay, we are over 360, so let's get our speed up, our descent speed to 1,900 feet per minute. And I'll explain to you why you want to go down faster in a second. So we are speeding up, we're looking pretty good, our rate of increase is good. We're still under 400 knots. They're 380 knots, so we're good. So looking good. Now, one thing that's, just to go back to the HEREIN Auto, it essentially almost has an auto throttle, because when you set the speed setting, it actually holds it in the descent. So it's not realistic. The Phenom does not have an auto throttle. It's just a poorly executed detail of the sim in my opinion. So let's try to level out at 250 knots. Ground speed is 367 knots, so our descent rate is perfect, because you round up to 380, add a 0, divide by 2, that's 1,900. So that's exactly where we want to be. Now, the reason why you want to be down faster is, for the first reason, is that it's always much easier to level off a few miles early and hit your target altitude than to be slamming down at a very high rate of descent and potentially overspeeding and getting yourself into all sorts of trouble. The second reason is partly varies by airplane, but this particular airplane, when it levels out at an altitude, when we get to 12,000, you'll see it does it very slowly. It doesn't, bringing the speed down a little bit, or power down. When it levels out, it does it very slowly. Other airplanes level out much more quickly, but you'll see this one's slow. So we're going to try, and we're going to review our descent rates and where we are as we go down, and we'll see how things are looking. We might have to speed up or slow down based on that. So let's look here. So this is an issue that I've talked about in previous videos, that this stupid thing doesn't. This is one of the big flaws in this airplane, is sometimes when you move away, or very frequently when you move away, it locks up on the screen. So you have to zoom in and zoom out to actually get it to go. So there's Kingman Airport. If we want to look at our chart, there we are. So IGM is right there, and we are going to fly this heading up there to ZIVC, and then we're going to turn left into Caddy, and then we're going to turn 325. And since we know we're going to be turning 325 as we hit Caddy, let's go ahead and set that. Always want to be ahead of the game. So let's turn this up to 325, and we can use the control key to do it nice and quickly. Boom. So we're ready to go, and right now we're in nav mode. You can see that by the GPS symbol here. And when we hit Caddy, we're going to go from nav mode into heading mode by just clicking this button. Very easy. And that will turn, the airplane will turn to 325, and then we will resume our standard arrival. Now, speed is picking up, so we need to bring that back, get down to about 60% N1. You can see here that we're coming down to 340 knots, at which we're going to want to be at 1,700 feet per minute. I'm in no rush to really. It's as I said, it's better to descend more quickly. So there we go, and the speed is really going to drop off as we start reducing our rate of climb. Now we've hit the IGM waypoint, and the map is frozen, of course. So let's go ahead and zoom in. You can see we're turning on to the next course of our GPS flight plan. Now you can see over here, that is the Grand Canyon, and it's incredibly spectacular in real life, and for those of you that haven't visited it, I recommend you do it. And you can see there's Lake Mead up there. I think this may be, the whole thing may be Lake Mead, so we're going to fly over that, and then Las Vegas is over here on the far left. So we're going to fly, we're going to turn a little bit left, and basically Caddy is right about here, and then we're going to turn sharply left and acquire the ILS. So our speed is a little too low. Let's go ahead and dial that up a little bit. And looking good. We're frozen here again, so let's go ahead and do that. So we are looking good. Let's check our ground speed. We are 324 knots, so we're going to want to drop to 1,600 feet per minute when we get below 320, though I'm going to delay a little bit just to get us down a little bit. We are almost to our transition altitude. If we had a barometric, well, I know the barometric pressure is standard at Las Vegas just based on the weather we had, but typically we'd be either be getting the barometric pressure from air traffic control, who would tell us as soon as we get near transition levels, or we could just we could actually look it up using the ATIS. And how do you find the ATIS? So the ATIS, for those of you that don't know, is the radio frequency. It's an automated information system, so you can go and connect to the airport and find out the weather and any special NOTAMs for the pilots. And we're going to ignore that ringing. So we're going to go to Map, and I'm going to show you how to get the ATIS. So this is a trick that I think a lot of people don't know. So this is our target here. We're going to this airport. So if you click there, you can see airport, and there's the ATIS line right on top. So you could actually go and pull that up. Maybe we'll do it just for fun. 132.4. The second thing that's really helpful, look here. This is so we're going to land on runway 25 left. There's the length of the runway. It's 10,000 feet. We need 3,000, so I think we'll be okay. This is the identifier, so this is what's going to pop up on the nav radio when we're in range, IRLE. This is the frequency, so this is what we punched into the radio, and this is the ILS heading, so 255. So we're going to want to set our course to 255 on the nav radio at the appropriate time. We could actually do that now, but you have to turn out a GPS mode to do that, so let's just hold off. So remember 255. So, and then the last really important piece of information here is the elevation. So 2181 if we want to plug that into our systems for landing field elevation or for minimums. So anyway, that's a nice little piece of information for you. So 255 on the heading is what we need to remember, 132.4 on the ATIS. Okay, let's go ahead and get the ATIS if we're in range. So we're going to adjust this, and just like the other radio, just like the nav radio, the outside one with the box is not active. It's this one that's active. There we go, and here comes our ATIS. Okay, so it sounds like perfect weather. Altimeter is 2992. ILS runway 25 left is in use. We are in good shape. And if we are flying a real flight, we would need to report that we have the ATIS. We have November. And then we can go ahead and click this and turn off the ATIS, so we're good. So now we're at 250 knots, we're going through transition altitude, everything is looking good. So we'd want to set the ATIS, the barometer, to the barometer at the airport, but since it is 2992, we don't have to do anything. This is frozen, so let's go ahead and jump in. Okay, we'll move that. Now, do we have any checklist items? Let me take and pull my checklist for, and there's, with the documents that come with this airplane, there are a lot of nice information on that. So let's see. So altimeters, let's cross-check. Everything's looking good. Lights, let's go ahead and set our landing lights. A little early, but that's okay. There we go. Fuel transfer is off. We know that's good. And our approach briefing. So as we approach, we are going to hit IGM, or we're going to hit Caddy and we have 4,600 to go, and we're about 18 nautical miles out. So that's looking pretty good. 17 nautical miles out, and we're probably going to want to be a little slower. So let's go down to 230, slow down our approach. And as soon as we hit Caddy, we're going to fly right to 325, and we are going to fly to the Phenom waypoint. We're going to drop down to 6,500 feet at Phenom. I'm sorry, 8,000 feet at Phenom. And once we hit Phenom, we're going to start a left turn, and we're going to pretty much pick up the ILS right at Phenom, so we're just going to grab the ILS from there. One really great thing about this airplane is the approach mode, which is you activate by hitting this button. It really does a nice job of acquiring the ILS. The Carenado, it drives me nuts because you basically have to be at the perfect altitude, the perfect speed, the perfect heading, and if you miss it, boom, it just does not acquire the localizer. It's annoying. So another plus for this airplane. So let's see how things are going, and our map is frozen again. So we are 11 nautical miles from Caddy. We are, according to this, it's gonna be tight whether or not we're actually going to make it down to that altitude and time. So let's go ahead and increase our rate of descent a little bit. So I want my vertical speed to be down. Let's go to 1900, and that should get us there. So we have less than 1,500 feet to go, fewer than 1,500 feet to go. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the flight plan and do an adjustment here. So this is Caddy right there. And 1,000 to go. We're 7.3 miles from Caddy. I think we're going to hit it right on the head. So by being a little aggressive, we did a nice job of hitting it right at the right time. There we go. You can notice how far out this airplane actually starts leveling off. And you really have to leave a lot of extra time for that. And airplane is slowing down. Let's keep our speed up. We're going to want to be at about 200 knots at Caddy, so something to keep in mind. We still are not in range of the localizer, so we'll keep an eye on that, and we'll keep our ears open for nav 1. Okay, need to speed up slightly to maintain 230 knots. And we are 4 nautical miles from Caddy. And as soon as we see this jump from Caddy to KLAS, that's when we hit our navigation button, or I'm sorry, our heading button to actually turn onto the course of 325. And you can see there we have some pretty strong wind, but it shouldn't be an issue. Back. 18 knot headwind and 11 knots from the left. So there we go. We just went to KLAS. You can see that there. Let's hit heading. And there we go. And we know we need to go to Phenom, so let's go ahead and set that up. You hit the direct 2 key. You hit the outer knob. You roll it once on the mouse button. Then you can punch in your next waypoint. P-R-I-N-O. Enter. And one more time to activate. So now we have a direct 2 for that. Let's go ahead and turn off the flight plan, and you can see there's a direct 2. I'm going to hit the nav button, and that's going to put us on the course to Caddy. To Phenom, pardon me. So, looking good. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to decrease our altitude to 8,000 feet. And let's go ahead and hit V speed. We have 1,000 in. And let's go down about 1,200 feet per minute. That should get us down fast enough. We have 24 nautical miles to go, according to this. So right out there is our Caddy point, right there on that corner of the lake. And then we're going to turn left and fly into the Las Vegas area. And you see this brownish area, greenish brown area, is the Las Vegas area. Now, as you look around out here, you know, it looks pretty dry, and I have to say that Las Vegas is pretty, the Vegas area is pretty dry. Nevada is really a desert. So it's pretty good representation there. So we're doing a nice job of acquiring the GPS. One thing I really like about this airplane is it grabs the GPS. It's not a approximate thing. It's going to get on that line and fly it. And sometimes in the Coronado, you're over here, you're over here. It's pretty amazing. So looking good there. Let's make sure this is working. Zoom out a little bit. Our speed is coming down. We want to be around 200 knots at Prino, so let's slow it down. Click this. So we are looking good. We have 2,500 feet to go. We are 18 nautical miles out. We have 4 minutes ETE, so we should comfortably make it down to 8,000. Now, once we hit Prino, we are going to start a left turn, and you're going to see that we'll basically be right on top of the ILS. So we're going to start our left turn and start our descent, but we're going to be able to jump straight into approach mode. So now we're pretty much steady, leveled out. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to heading mode. So I'm going to center click on here. That's going to jump my bearing to what our current course is. I'm going to go 1 notch to the right so we don't get too far left of Prino, and I'm going to click heading. Boom, we're now in heading mode, and you can see that here. So next thing we're going to want to do, we're done with GPS for this flight, so let's go ahead and turn on this. So as we said before, the heading so now we are responding to the nav1 radio. There's no signal, so you can see there we've got nothing, and here you've got nothing. So nothing's going to happen yet if we were to go into nav mode. But what we can do is we can go ahead and set up the course of the runway. As we said, we're landing on 25 left. The bearing of the runway is 255. So let's slide down to 255. So now we're going to have a perfectly vertical line as we're flying towards the runway. It's a beautiful thing. So we're 1,000 feet to go. We're starting to level out. Airplane is slowing down. We're going to be pretty close to 200 knots at Prino, and we are looking good. We should start seeing that. We should start seeing that ILS as just IRLE. There we are. We're leveling out, looking good. Came down a little early, but it's not going to hurt us. Lake Mead in the distance. Let's see if we can see anything of Las Vegas. You're starting to see something, but you know, maybe you're not quite within the draw distances. So we are still not in range of the ILS. This is frozen, of course, but we are right on course. Everything is looking sharp, and you can see there those green lines are the ILS approaches to the runways. So we are looking pretty good. We are definitely decelerating too fast. There we go. Do you see that? Just popped up IRLE. We just got the horizontal component of the localizer. You can see the line is in front of us, and we can hear beeping on our. We can hear beeping that tells us we're hearing the actual signal from it. And if you pull up the star chart, you can actually see those Morse code dots underneath the localizer line. That tells you if you beep beep beep, you know, etc. Tells you the Morse code for it. So everything's correct. Now we don't have the vertical component yet. We'll get that when we're closer to the airport. We should get it right about Prino. So we are at 8,000 feet. We're settled in. We know we need to start dumping down to 6,500 feet. Yes. Once we hit Prino, we want to start descending to 6,500 feet until we hit the ILS. And frozen again. Once again, we are 5 nautical miles out, so we've got our vertical speed set up. And looking good. 4 nautical miles. Okay, we can go ahead and turn this off because it's going to get annoying. See, we're still short of the horizontal component. And as we hit Prino, it's going to start coming in. So we're going to want to start getting ready to intercept. 3 nautical miles. Speed is pretty much right on perfect. Two nautical miles. Altitude 8,000 feet. Map is frozen again. One nautical mile. Localizer starting to come in. So let's go ahead and start our left turn. And up, we just picked up the vertical component of the glide slope. And if you can see, I just started V-speeding down at 1,000 feet per minute. And watch this. This is very impressive that this actually works correctly, because in the current auto it's a hash. If I hit approach here, so I'm now in approach mode. You see the localizer we're in localizer mode. Now watch how well this airplane acquires the glide slope. We're going to continue descending, and I'm going to bring it up a little bit, 1,000 feet per minute. And our speed is coming up too fast, so let's bring that down. Notice how well it captures the localizer. Right now, if I try that in the current auto, you'd have zero chance. It would never acquire the localizer. Basically, you have to be a level, straight and level, and basically perfect. So basically, I got there at generally the correct angle to intercept the localizer, and I hit approach when I was still below the glide slope. But watch, it's going to, we're actually descending below the glide slope, and as the glide slope comes down, as we start leveling off, it's going to just forget about the rate of descent we're doing, and it's going to go ahead and acquire the glide slope automatically. And it's a beautiful thing. It's well done. Feel there. It's really really well engineered. So here we go. Speed is coming down. Hear that beeping? That means we just acquired the glide slope. And so now it's going to settle in. Horizontal path is looking good. We're just slightly to the right of the line, and we're just slightly underneath. Now, we're entering the Las Vegas area. If you there it goes. Now we can see the strip and the airport. So this is 25 left over here on the left. This is 25 right. 25 left, I think, is 10,000 feet. I'm sure this is 13,000 feet for this enormous 25 right runway. There's actually two other runways that go like this that are more commonly used from what I can tell in my experience at this airport. So there's some buildings here. This is the Mandalay Bay, and there is the Luxor, and this is the MGM Grand, and a number of other casinos along the strip here. This road right here is called the Strip, and that's where all the major casinos are. And that's really the hot, exciting area. Now, let's bring our speed back a little bit and look at how we're doing. We are perfectly on the localizer, both horizontally and vertically. It's just absolutely stuck. And so let's go ahead and brief on what we're going to do. When we probably should be bringing it down to about 180 knots. When we're 15 nautical miles out, which are almost 15 nautical miles out, let's go ahead and I'll show you how with this system you think you'd have it, but it doesn't show you. So let's go ahead and do this. We're going to go direct to one click, KLAS, enter, 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 and we're not 9 nautical miles. So that's a nice little trick. It doesn't have anything to do with our navigation, it's just giving us a distance. So let's go ahead, we're under 200 knots, we can go flaps 1. When we are 1,500 feet AGL, we're going to want to slow down to about 150. When we're 1,500 feet AGL, we're going to want to lower our gear and lower our flaps one more notch. When we're 1,000 feet AGL, we're going to turn off the autopilot, turn off the yaw damper, and prior to landing, we're probably going to go full flaps, even though we don't need to. Now, in the document that comes with this airplane, there are V speeds. Based on our weight, which you can look at from what is the empty weight plus the 780 pounds of fuel plus whatever we have on board, our V speeds are going to be, our VREF is going to be 97 knots. So our goal is to be 97 knots as we cross the threshold. So looking pretty good. We just picked up the radar altimeter. We're 2,000 feet. In 500 feet, we are 500 feet, we're going to drop our gear. And you're going to notice that it's really going to slow things down. This airplane does not have speed brakes, doesn't have thrust reversers. You don't really need it. It's amazing how quickly just putting some drag up really slows it down. I guess it's just because it's such a small airplane. So 1,600 feet. We're looking good. Our flaps are down 1. We're going to drop them 1 more notch after we drop the gear. 1,500 feet. We're ready to go. Let's go ahead and drop the flaps. And let's go ahead and try to settle in about 120 knots for final approach. There we go. We are still perfectly on the glide slope. It really looks good. Really looking good. 130 knots. Let's go ahead and try to slow that in. So about 1,000 AGL, we're going to go ahead and turn off the autopilot. So autopilot off, yaw damper off, and then we're going to try to, and you really want to have that yaw damper off because it's very difficult to maneuver on the runway without it. It's like you really need that rudder to be fully under your control. So here we are, we're looking good, 122 knots. Perfectly on the glide slope in both directions. A little, no, we're pretty much right on it. Maybe a little bit high. Okay, just check gear down, flaps down. Let's go ahead and go full flaps right here. And that's really going to slow us down quite a bit. So we're going to give it a little more fuel. A little high, but given this runway is so long, it's really not an issue. So let's go ahead and bring our speed down. We can be a little hot coming in here because we've got such a long runway. It just gives you a lot more flexibility. There we go. And not my best landing ever, but pretty good. And there we go. We're just going to roll out because there's no good taxiways around here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and raise the flaps. We don't need them. Clean it up. And 55 knots. Let's slow down, even though this is a high-speed taxiway. That's a little quick. And here we go. And I'm not going to take you through the whole painful business of taxiing around this airport. The taxi and the documentation is quite long. I'm just going to go ahead and stop it here and have some closing remarks, and then we'll say goodbye. So, it's 55-minute flight time. In our second video, we talked a lot about the TVM and how it compares. It took about 2 minutes longer to fly the TVM. A little bit lower cruise speed, but much faster time to altitude for the TVM. It really climbs fast. So, on a flight of this level, what does the jet get you? Not a huge amount more, though. We could have really cranked up the speed quite a bit if we'd wanted to go faster at cruise. But generally, I think where this airplane is best is in that 800 nautical mile trip range, where the speed really makes a difference from something like a TVM, and obviously something really slow like well, not really slow, but significantly slower like a Pilatus. If anybody's interested, I'd love to see comments in the video. Please keep them positive. I wasn't trying to fly this flight as the perfect flight by the perfect pilot with perfect checklists. It's a demonstration of what this airplane is all about and some of the instrument things you can do with it. So please give positive comments, and if you'd like me to fly this flight in the Coronado version, we can look at some of the limitations and some of the things it does better in action. I think it's an interesting exercise to do that. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you on future videos.